Okay, so we said already that this 49-day period are very happy, joyous days. Then why are we mourning on a whole bunch of the days, and why do we stop little past halfway through? So that's because of an event that happened about 1,000 years after, or more, of us leaving Mitzrayim, more actually, after leaving Mitzrayim, when we had a certain challenge and tragedy that happened to the Jewish people. So what happened was a level of mourning kind of descended like a shadow over part of these 49 days. Once again, the Omer period is a very happy, joyous period. We're building up towards Matan Torah. We're all delighted. We're all excited. Everything's fantastic. However, something happened, and it happened during that period, not by coincidence. Things happen at certain times of the year, not by coincidence. So what was that? So let's have a look at the Gemara on page 95, and let's do this in detail, because the Gemara is going to tell us the story of Rabbi Akiva and his students. Follow this story, you need to know it. Rabbi Akiva said, and this is, we're going to start with the end, and then he works his way back, okay? So we're going to see what happened, and then we're going to see why it happened, and why it happened when it happened, and then what we're going to do about it. Rabbi Akiva said, if you have learned Torah in your youth, you must continue learning Torah even in your old age. Okay, it's a very nice and very true statement, but why is he saying that? He did learn Torah. He didn't, you're right. He didn't start till he was 40 years old, actually. But he's telling his students. He's telling his students. He said, if you had students in your youth, you must continue to have students in your old age. Why is Rabbi Akiva saying this? Why is Rabbi Akiva teaching us about having students when you're young and having students when you're old? And he actually quotes a verse, a pasuk, that says, in the morning put your seeds in, and in the evening you don't have to let your hand rest, you can keep working these seeds. Okay, so this is what happened that led him to make this statement about having students when you're young and then having new students when you're old. Basically, Rabbi Akiva, says the Gemara, had 12,000 pairs of students. 12,000 pairs. Okay. By the way, why are they counting them in pairs?
Because you're not allowed to count Jews?
No, then you don't count at all. Why do you count in pairs? Chavruta, yeah, I think that's what it is. We count them because the real way to study Torah is one-on-one chavrutot. And he had 12,000 pairs of students all over the land of Israel, from Givat to Antiprat, which is two areas, we're not sure where they are. And they all died during one period of time. So there was this massive plague, disease, that killed thousands and thousands of people, including 12,000 pairs of students of Rabbi Akiva. Okay? And the Gemara then gives the reason why this happened. The Gemara says, because lo nahagu kavod ze lazeh, they did not give honor one to another. Now, as far as I know, that should not be a reason to kill, for Hashem to want to kill people and not that many people in such a short period of time. But that's what happened. We have to see why they were judged so harshly for something that's not good, but it's not so bad. What would it be? So we have to figure out who Rabbi Akiva was and why he had these students, or what his students were actually meant to be doing. Anyway, the Gemara continues. Before we get to it, the Gemara continues and says, the world was desolate because there was no Torah from these students until Rabbi Akiva came to the rabbis of the south and taught them. By the way, interesting, Rabbi Akiva, their rabbi, did not die. I mean, he's going to die later on at the age of 120. We know that Rabbi Akiva was ignorant of Torah to the age of 40. Then he learned Torah for 40 years, and then he taught Torah for 40 years, and he died at 120 at the hands of the Romans. But he didn't die from this plague. So whatever killed them, he was not a victim of. He was not a perpetrator of. Anyway, so all these students die, and he's like, fine, I'm going to start again, because I already taught you, he said, that I want to teach in my youth, and I want to teach my old age. So what did he teach? Who were these people? Rabbi Meir, right? Every stum Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, so that's a big rabbi. Rabbi Yehuda, one of the great rabbis of the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi, not the great Gemara from the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon, another great rabbi from the Gemara, Rabbi Elazar ben Shemua. These are the 5 greatest rabbis from the times of the Gemara. I mean, it was them who pretty much reestablished Torah in their day. Okay? So these 24,000 students all died between Pesach and Atzeret. When is Atzeret? So Atzeret is another name for Shavuot. Actually, the Torah itself refers to Shavuot as Atzeret means to stop. So Shavuot equals Atzeret. Write that down. Shavuot equals Atzeret. When you see the word Atzeret, the word literally means to stop, but it's a reference to Shavuot, but it also sounds like another Jewish holiday, which is Shmini Atzeret, which means to stop on the 8th day. So Shavuot equals Shmini Atzeret. They have that common word. You stop. You're stopping for different reasons. You're stopping when it comes to Shavuot because you stop counting, and now you receive the Torah. You've prepared enough, you receive the Torah. You stop, as we're going to see next semester when we discuss Sukkot, you stop on Shmini Atzeret because 7 days of Sukkot are finished, and now I'm going to stop going back to my normal life and my work to celebrate one more day with Hashem. So both Shavuot and Shmini Atzeret are called Atzeret because both involve stopping for different reasons, but I'm stopping nonetheless. So over here, it says that these students all died between Pesach and Atzeret, i.e., aka Shavuot, and you stop over there as well. Okay? And what exactly was this disease they died of? And the Gemara tells us it was a throat disease. They had some kind of choking disease that stopped them breathing. I guess it was the COVID corona of their day. I'm not sure exactly. But it killed them by choking them. They choked.
But not these rabbis.
Not these 5. They were the new rabbis. He moved from 24,000 students who died from this plague, and probably many more, that spread all over Israel, maybe the entire world, we're not even sure. And then he said, okay, fine. He didn't say fine, he said, this is terrible. And now I'm going to find new students. He didn't build up thousands. He said, I'm going to take 5 and rebuild through these 5. Okay, who are these 24,000 students? Who are they? What were they meant to be? What was their, well, why make a big deal out of it? So you have to understand, Rabbi Akiva lived at the end of the second temple period. He knew there was going to be a destruction. He understood that the Jewish people were going to go into exile, into galut. How do you prepare Jewish people in exile? With teachers. These students were actually, as it were, on a rabbinical training program that before them or their students would be exiled, they would be able to live in those other locations to teach Torah. While they were in this training program, if you will, learning under the great Rabbi Akiva, there was a defect in their personalities. And that defect was they were not nice to each other. They were these 24,000 rabbinic students who were studying under Rabbi Akiva. They were meant to be these students who were going to spread Torah throughout the entire world. However, they were not up for the job. Why? Because not they weren't learned. They knew a lot of Torah. They were very religious. It's because they were not nice to each other. They spoke Lashon Hara, and which came in the form of not giving kavod, and that is why the disease that got them was in the throat. Remember, the punishment always fits the crime. And they weren't speaking nicely to each other. They weren't giving kavod to each other. Hashem is like, I'm sorry. Normally, I will not remove people from the world for speaking Lashon Hara. I'll put you into galut. However, for you students, if this character deficiency is with you now, it's going to be with your students when you go to galut. You do not get to be the future of the Jewish people. Rabbi Akiva obviously did give kavod, so he didn't die. And these 5 students that we spoke about also did not have this problem. They survived. So Rabbi Akiva said, he could have said, that's it, I'm done. 1,000 students dead, I spent all this time teaching them, all for nothing. He said, no, we have a pasuk. If you learn Torah in your youth, you teach it in your old age. If you have students in your youth, you have students in old age. He's like, I'm going to start again, but this time I'm not going to mess it up. I'm not going to start with lots and lots of people. I'm going to start with 5. And I'm going to build up the entire, by the way, every single rabbi and every bit of Torah we have to this day comes directly from these 5 great students of Rabbi Akiva. The entire future of the Jewish people in terms of Torah knowledge and Torah learning comes from these 5 students. So he said, rather than going out from 24,000 in, I'm going to have 5,000 and I'm going to branch out instead. Yeah.
Rabbi Akiva obviously kind of coined Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Was this before?
He did not coin it. The
but
pasuk comes from the Torah,
from the Torah,
but he did. He was the one who said, Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. He lived the idea of mitzvah ben adam l'chavero. Good.
Which we learned.
Good girl. We did learn it. Absolutely.
This, I never heard this story. I didn't know this part of the story. So
Yeah.
I'm like thinking about it. Did he teach that to his students? Because if he taught that to his students, how did they know?
You must assume that he did, because this was a major teaching. Zeh klal gadol b'Torah, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. It's a great principle. You have to love everyone like you love yourself. Obviously, they were not. That's why they were culpable, because you can only be culpable when you learn something. They knew it. They understood this was the essence. Now, why at this time period is the only question we have left. Why this time period did this disease, this corona, COVID of his day, hit? Why did it hit at this particular time as opposed to any other time? It can't be coincidence that it fell directly between Pesach and Shavuot. Yeah, Mina.
Is it to do with the reason for the ultimate destruction of the Beis Hamikdash?
Which was what?
That was basis hatred.
Okay, so that's the second Beit HaMikdash. First Beit HaMikdash was other Averot. However, it must be, okay, go on.
Oh, I was thinking that it was about, you asked about the Beit HaMikdash?
No, I'm asking why this disease
Oh yeah, I remember that.
happened at this time.
Well, we're about to get the Torah. We're building up to get the Torah. When the Jews left Egypt, they only knew a little bit, and then when we get Shavuot, obviously we get the Torah.
So,
And so, right now it's kind of like they're almost like in an animalistic kind of way of treating each other, because then once we get to Shavuot, we become like human.
okay,
So then maybe this is like that they were acting in an animalistic way, but even though they knew the Torah and they knew that obviously we got the Torah Shavuot, they know that this is like a...
Maya, absolutely right. How did you prepare for the Torah? Well, there's 2 options, right? One is you learn mitzvah bein adam lamakom b'tzas Hashem. The other option is you mitzvah bein adam lachavero. We're learning from this story that the preparation for Torah is not just to study Torah, it's not just to prepare for the giving of the Torah, it's not just to study mitzvah between you and Hashem, it's actually to act nicely to each other. The Torah was given for us to become nicer to each other. That's the preparation. That's what was missing from the students of Rabbi Akiva that led to their death between Pesach and Shavuot. As simple as that. They messed up. They messed up by not being nice to each other. How do we fix it? So Rabbi Akiva said to his students, he said, look, the first ones died because they weren't nice to each other. Don't make the same mistake. Don't make the same mistake. You cannot speak Lashon Hara. You got to give kavod. That's how you get to survive and be teachers and learners of Torah. So the real question and answer we have, and we'll finish with this before we get to the halachot of the Omer itself, the morning aspect of the Omer. We already spoke about the positive mitzvot, but the negative ones. And how do we prepare for giving the Torah? Bein adam lachavero, being nice to each other. So that's why during this 7-week period, people work on their midot, bein adam lachaveiro. It's got to be. Otherwise, this whole story of Rabbi Akiva and all these students is for naught. Again, these students, Rabbi Akiva, who died from Pesach to Shavuot, these 24,000 students, probably among others as well, they died because they weren't nice. I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. They were not good people. Maybe the punishment was so harsh because what they should have been doing was being nice to each other during this period. Okay? So there is a custom not to get married, because marriage is a very joyful thing, between Pesach and Shavuot, because the students of Rabbi Akiva died during this time. However, it is permitted and encouraged to get engaged. Why are you allowed to get engaged, but not allowed to get married? Why are you allowed to get engaged, but not allowed to get married?
Because engagement to this day is different than it was in the times of the Torah.
Even so, ignore the whole thing. Don't do any of it. The reason is because engagement kind of is you making a promise you're going to marry this individual. If you don't get engaged, this person is single and may be taken by someone else. This guy or girl. And therefore you make a public declaration that we're going to get married, not for the simcha aspect of it, although it is a simcha, but so that everyone knows that this guy and this girl are off limits. So that's why you're allowed to get engaged even during a mourning period. Yeah.
Is there a specific few days where you can get married?
Okay, so we're going to get to it. And the answer is yes. Engaged, the entire Omer?
No,
Married. So we're going to see there are different customs as to when you can and cannot. The most famous one, of course, is Lag BaOmer, right? Lag BaOmer. And we'll see why that day, what happened on that day, is a few things that happened on Lag BaOmer that stops the mourning period for most people. Stops the mourning period. Okay? So you're allowed to get engaged, and you're allowed to make an engagement party, and you're allowed to make a celebration for the sole purpose that it's a public declaration that this couple are for each other, and no one else can take them. Off limits. Okay? So what happened on Lag BaOmer? So Lag BaOmer, what does the word lag mean? What does the word lag mean? Yeah, Mia.
When you say it's like you're making a public declaration, but you're saying there's someone else who might take in the message.
Yeah.
It's not yours.
What?
Meaning, what they say, whatever is yours is yours, whatever is not yours is not yours. It's not meant to be.
Okay. People can act terribly and do terrible things. What's mine is mine, and someone can steal it from me. This is a declaration saying that we are now engaged and we're planning to get married. This is a small celebration, but no one else should take them.
But if someone, you're not going to understand. If someone gets engaged, right, or then someone planning to get engaged and then it doesn't happen, then this person wasn't meant for them.
Okay. Once again, let's say you have $5 in your pocket. Is that money yours?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to come and take it from you?
No.
Why not? I'll take it. It's mine. It's through Isur. Same thing. This couple are together, and everyone knows that these people are off limits, and you can't start looking into them and trying to date them in order to marry them. It's a boundary. It's a fence. That's okay. Otherwise, I can say it to a married couple, Mia. So you know what? This person's married. Maybe they're not meant to be married to them, and I'll take them and I'll marry them too.
This person wasn't for you.
Who says? Who says? Maybe that money's not for you. I'm going to steal all your money. It's not for you either. Why is that any different, Mia? It's not for you. I'll take it. It's not different at all, actually. It's actually very, very similar. This person's for you, and if you decide to break it off, that's something else. But because someone else is coming in and ruining it for you, that's not acceptable. Okay?
It's not acceptable, obviously.
So there you go. This is why it's not acceptable. And that's how you declare it's not acceptable, by making a public declaration. Okay? Okay. So what happened on the 33rd day? Let's have a look. So the answer is that there was a stopping of the killing, of the death of these students. On the 33rd day of the Omer period, Lag, Lamed, Gimel, 33. It's not a word, it's a number. Lag, Lamed is 30, Gimel is 3. On the 33rd, yes, 33rd day of the Omer, they stopped dying. And because of that, there was a celebration, as it were, that obviously the decree of the deaths had stopped, and people accepted the fact that no longer was there going to be deaths at that time. And that is what the Sefer Minhag says. He heard of the name of Rabbi Zachariah Halevi from Gerona, which is in Spain, that 15 days before Atzeret, which is Lag BaOmer, these people stopped dying. That's one reason why Lag BaOmer is celebrated the way it is. Reason number two, so we have one, they stopped dying. Number two, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai died on that day. Now, why would that be a celebration? Why would that be a celebration on the 33rd day of the Omer? So it says in the Zohar that Shimon Bar Yochai was to leave this world, and before he died, he took all of his teachings, and all of his friends came to his room, and he said, wow, my neshama is about to leave this world. When a person leaves this world, they have a certain closeness to Shemayim, right? Because they're about to leave this world, but they're still in this world. And they say that he taught deep Kabbalistic secrets. Actually, all Kabbalah that we have today comes from this one day of real teaching of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar. And they say that while he was there was a fire in the room, where this is physical or a metaphor, and it went up into the heavens, and there was a great hilulah, a great celebration on this day. So from this teaching, this revelation of Kabbalah, which is also compared to fire because it's a strong Torah, and so this celebration of the teaching of the Torah was a big celebration in the world. In this world, says the Zohar, in the next world. And so this became third day. That's why to this day, they celebrate Lag BaOmer, making bonfires to commemorate the fires that came from the teachings of the Kabbalah from Shimon Bar Yochai to his students. That is exactly where it's from. That's reason number two. So you have two reasons why Lag BaOmer is so special. Reason number one, students stopped dying. Reason number two, Rav Shimon Bar Yochai died years later, and the teaching, the main bulk of Kabbalah, mystical teachings of Shimon Bar Yochai were given on that day. The next reason is a calculation. It was a calculation. And it goes like this. It says that when the Jewish people left Egypt, they took matzah with them. And they had the matzah with them, about 30 days worth of matzah that they brought with them. Then they went 3 days without bread, and they complained. And then, after 33, what happened? The man started to fall. The man came from Shemayim. And so Lag BaOmer was actually, it wasn't Lag BaOmer at this point, on the 33rd day of the Omer, the man started to fall. And that's obviously a great celebration. And so that 33rd day, when you celebrate Lag BaOmer, you're celebrating all three. The stopping of the death of the students of Shimon Bar Yochai, the death of Rabbi Akiva, the death of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and the Kabbalah that he teaches. And finally, we're celebrating the man that fell on the 33rd day of the Omer. Yeah. And so all these days have great spiritual power. The 33rd day of the Omer has exceptional spiritual power for people to achieve great spiritual heights. Spiritual heights and success materially, because the man represents material, financial success. Yeah.
I have two questions.
Fantastic!
So,
I love
if
questions.
Sephardi women aren't allowed to acknowledge the deity,
I didn't say they couldn't acknowledge. I say they couldn't count with a baracha. They can count without a baracha, and that is no problem.
Okay, so they can be part of the 31st day.
So they are part of it, and they count it without a bracha, and they'll say, today is day 1 of the Omer, today is day 2 of the Omer, and actually it's a mitzvah to count the days and the weeks, because the Pesukim reference days and weeks, right? So you're going to count, you'll say, this is day 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then on the 7th day, which is 1 week, so you're going to do both. No problem, but the custom for most Faradim is, women, is not to count with a bracha, because it's a mitzvah, shezman, grama. Everyone knows what that expression means. If you don't, please ask me.
We just have to say, so like I know.
That's it.
No bracha.
No bracha. With joy in your heart. Yeah.
Just a question. So when I was in Israel, my year was the big Meirut kind of thing that happened at Meirut on Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
Not on Yom Kippur, on Lag BaOmer.
Yeah.
Why did they pick this? I know it's related to Lag BaOmer, but
Yeah.
why is it like there?
Why is
that
what
where
there?
his grave is?
That's where he's buried.
That's where Rabbi Shimon
Yeah,
is, or
yeah,
Rabbi-
yeah. Shimon Bar Yochai is buried. Yeah. Rabbi Akiva is buried in Tiberia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
As is his wife. You can actually go to her grave. Her name was Rachel. One of the great heroines of Jewish history is Rabbi Akiva's wife. I took my whole family over there. My daughter was like, oh, another grave. I'm like, but this is a special one. This is a good place to be. It's beautiful over there. It's right opposite Chof Guy over there. You can go to it. And there's a little area over there. And there's food over there. Going to the burial place of Rabbi Akiva's wife is over there, yeah. And the Rambam. Yeah,
I have 2 questions.
sure.
If it was over, like death of a student, just over such a, like, whatever period of time, was there not elements of like teshuvah, then like noticing a pattern or something? Like, is there anything on that?
It could be. I don't know the answer to that question. Was there an element of teshuvah that came with a period? I don't know. Seemingly it wasn't enough in the right amount of time. Maybe more people should have died, and that stopped it. So I guess they figured out while it was happening. Somehow the rabbis of the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva as well, was able to figure out this is the source reason for it. Why this particular death came from this particular part of the throat. Ascaria it's called, affected the throat, and they died that way. They were able somehow to figure it out. I'm not sure how. And I guess they realized tshuva, but tshuva doesn't just kick in like that. Maybe it takes time. There was a decree of gezerah over this many people. They died out. Maybe more should have died, and then it stopped. So maybe that was a celebration that more didn't die but could have.
Okay, and then I have one more question. In actually counting the Omer, you said we start at nightfall.
Yeah.
So do you technically have till the next night? Like, let's say you don't
Yes.
do it that night.
If you don't do it that night, you can count the next day. So not because the day begins at night time. By the way, why does the day begin at night time, by the way? Why does that day begin at night?
Because the Jewish day started at night.
How do you know that?
Because we know it.
Not lunar. Lunar is month. This is day.
I know.
And tell me, for God's sakes.
It's when they were talking about Yom
No.
Kippur, they said about the
No,
fast,
no,
you have to
no,
start
no,
before.
no,
That's
no,
how we
no.
know.
It's from Bereshit. Vayerev, vayevoker. Vayerev, it always starts by counting the
Oh,
night
that's
for
the
the
other
day.
way. Oh, yeah, that's
So you start at nighttime. So every day begins at nighttime. So you count with the bracha at nighttime, because that's when the day begins. During the day, you can count without a bracha as a general custom to do that.
Sephardi women don't even do it with a bracha. It's fine to just do it during the day.
Absolutely. 1,000%. Good girl. Perfectly. Yusfadi? Baruch Hashem. Yes.
Sephardi adventure camp.
Well, what?
What is man grama?
As a mitzvah shezman grama, a mitzvah that time causes. Now, there's 2 interpretations for that. One interpretation is that it's a certain time of year this mitzvah kicks in, like shofar or, matzah, unlike mezuzah, that's 24/7, right, 365, or tefillah, that is 24/7. That's what women are obligated in those mitzvot. But some say it's during the day. For example, tefillin is a daytime mitzvah. You don't put tefillin at nighttime. So that's why women are not obligated to tefillin or tzitzit for that exact reason. There are exceptions to that rule. One exception is Pesach, because the Jewish people the women were also redeemed. The other is Purim, because the Jewish women were also redeemed. The other is Chanukah, because the Jewish women also survived and got to celebrate at that time as well. So there are exceptions. Shabbat That's another way we get to Shabbat. Women have to do the positive mitzvot on Shabbat. Another reason, unrelated to that, because there was no salvation on Shabbat. It's to do with Shamor and Zachor. Over here too. Over here there's a machloket because Zman Grama, it's a daytime and it's a time of year. So women are obligated. So I guess the Ashkenazi poskim will say because they were part of that redemption, they all survived the desert experience, and they also look forward to the Torah. I guess that's why. That'll be the core reason for it. Yeah? Yes?
Question. For the second reason.
What was that? I've forgotten already. Second reason of what?
Yeah. But did he die that day?
He died that day. I think he died that day, and that day he died. Before he died, he gave her. Yeah. That was a day of fire. The Torah, some say there was actually like a fire in the room. Like those people who could see it. Others say it was a metaphor, and there was a spiritual fire from his very fiery Kabbalistic teachings.
And then he just dropped dead.
What?
And then he dropped dead.
And then he died, yeah.
Right after the fire.
Right after that event, yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Why wouldn't that be considered mourning, though? Because didn't a great rabbi die? Don't you normally go?
So very, very good. So that's a fair question. Why are we not like upset? So we're upset not for the person themselves, but for the people who are left behind. You know that, right? You're not upset for the dead person. They've gone to Olam Hamet. We're dead for the people who survived. In this case, people who survived received a tremendous gift, which was a vast amount of Torah. It's very sad, and no one actually mourns for them.
They're not leaving anyone behind.
It's a big problem, yeah. You do not be in that situation. Not you, chas v'chalila. A person doesn't want to be in that situation. They want to leave friends and family. That's why it says, better the day of death, says Shalom Melech, than the day of birth. Day of birth, the person has their whole life in front of them, and it's scary. Day of death, they're going to Olam HaEmet. That's why he says, better the day of death, right? Tov yom ha'mavet mivlado. Yeah.
So this is like a little off topic, but I recently heard Shani Dermo's story of his daughter.
Yeah.
And how do you explain that? Like
Explain what?
what happened? Like in the sense of that, like you say, like Hashem took the soul up to Emet, but like brought it back.
Well, are you asking about near-death experiences?
No, not near-death experiences, but like
She didn't die.
she didn't die. Obviously, I know, but I'm saying like
She's alive.
oh, obviously I know, but I'm saying like yeah, like a near-death experience, but like that bad.
So that's not a death experience. Death is forever. Near-death experience, which even the Gemara mentions, is not forever. It's a temporary visitation to Olam HaEmet. Not the entire soul, by the way, part of it. So that we don't eulogize. It's not a hesped. It's not mourning. Person is not dead.
Obviously he's not dead, right?
Yeah.
But how do you say a person that, like, for example, like
It's a great celebration that they didn't die.
obviously I'm saying like loses his heartbeat or like that's like
So what are you going to do? You want to like,
my question is how would that person brought to the Lag BaOmer? He loses his heartbeat, right?
okay, so a person in the Shama, or every night a person in the Shama goes to Olam HaEmet.
But he doesn't lose a heartbeat.
Okay, lose the heartbeat. Okay, they haven't lost it forever. They lost it for a short period, and they bring it back. That's not death. That's not death. Death is a person, the neshama totally leaves the body. That's not happening over there. The neshama is still inside the body. Just the physical body is going through certain problems that have let the part of the neshama go to the next world. But that's not death. The kid didn't die. Yeah.
But like, why do you say that? Like when like you have like near-death experience.
Near death is not death. So we show Hakarat HaTov to Hashem that a person does not die. Her kid did not die. They temporarily, the neshama went, but that's not real death. Death is permanent. That's what mitah actually means. Okay? So you can have Hakarat HaTov for that, which she did. Yeah.
Was it only his students that died of this group?
We don't know of any. Maybe there was more, but we know these students specifically died. These students all died in totality. Were there more? We're not told. Maybe I'm assuming there were. But the story is about, not every record of every plague in history is written down unless it has like a cultural significance, which this case does. Good? Any other questions? Okay, so the next piece is going to be in Shavuot. It's going to be a long piece, so I'm going to stop short today. We're going to pick this up, God willing, on Tuesday, and we only have a few classes left. So we're going to have to pile through Shavuot in like 2 classes, and then Tisha B'Av in 2 classes.
What about the last one, the New Heights? Are we doing that one?
That's fine.